Your anxiety may be warning you that what you're surrounded with is not as safe as you think it is. Let me explain further. First of all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Vanessa. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And this is a topic that is so important and not much talked about, at least I feel. But throughout my own journey with anxiety and panic attacks, I got to go really deep into understanding what does my anxiety want to tell me, my panic attacks, what is the narrative, and what does it all have to do with safety. And I realized that often the environments that I was surrounded with, or the circumstances, even the clothing, the food, the materials, the neighbors, whatever it is, when you're a highly sensitive person, and it doesn't matter if you are or not, in this case, if you have anxiety anyway, just when you're highly sensitive, you feel a lot of information, like you are witness to a lot more information than, let's say, the average person. And I'm not saying that average is bad or worse or better or anything. I'm just saying that we all are different human beings and we have so much in common, but we also have different gifts. And if we feel at the mercy of our gifts, then, it can bring up difficult emotions, panic, anxiety, depression, all these kind of things, even physical symptoms. And then it feels suddenly like, we carry this harsh burden. And we can also have anxiety and panic and all these things if we're not highly sensitive. But when we're highly sensitive, we take in so much more information than maybe other people would notice in their system. And we feel it through our nervous system. So you may not be aware of why, you may sit on the couch and watch a movie and suddenly the anxiety or the panic hits you. And you wonder, like, why now? Like, that makes no sense and you don't understand it. But you may be taking in subconsciously through your nervous system information that you are not aware of. So that may be like neighbors upstairs that have maybe an energy that feels unsafe to you. Maybe there's something going on in the movie, or something happened earlier in the day that made you feel like, still sort of analyzing it in your subconscious mind and being in the back of your head, like working without you realizing. And when that happens, sometimes anxiety can come up and make you feel like out of the blue something's happening. But it's often an accumulation in your nervous system or a signal that something is not okay. It can be that something is not okay, truly, or that it feels like something is not okay. Yeah, there's a difference, and I'm going to explain you what the difference is. So when we feel like something is not okay, then we often react to a situation in the past, but now here in the present moment. So let's say you're sitting with your friends in a bar or in a cafe and there's lots of people around, and suddenly you get anxiety, although you're having a nice conversation, you're having a nice tea or whatever, and everything feels okay. And like maybe all the glass that chippers, or like the noise around you, and then cars passing or bikes or whatever, all this noise may feel overwhelming to your nervous system. And that's when your nervous system signals you, something's not okay, you're not safe, although you may be safe. So that can mean that in the past, maybe as a child or growing up or later in life, you had situations when I can just tell you from my own experience, I had situations when I woke up in the middle of the night and there were people like fighting outside of my room door, or there was a party and loud music, and my nervous system picked that up, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night not knowing what's going on here, and you may have had something similar going on at some point in your life, just something that disrupted the feeling of safety within you, and you may have not been safe in this situation, or you may have been safe, but noise or whatever, other people fighting like at distance or around you may have, created fear in your nervous system. And you may not even remember those moments and situations, but often when we get into a phase when we are very sensitive and have panic and anxiety come up, often triggered through stress or new difficult situations, that's when those old feelings and old body memories come back up without us actually noticing and understanding what is going on here. So that's what I mean with you react to the past in the present situation, because your nervous system stores all those old memories if you don't release it, and it keeps it locked up in your system. It's like, I explained this a bit in another video, where you have a contraction, like when you contract a muscle, when you work out, you you also release the muscle again, right? Like when you work out, because that's healthy to do. But if you have a contraction, like a shock or a traumatic experience or a fear that got stuck in your nervous system, this contraction stays within you. And whenever we feel very sensitive or tired or nervous or stressed, that contraction can be triggered again, so that a signal is sent to your nervous system, or your nervous system sends out a signal when it gets overwhelmed and says, oh, danger, danger, danger. So then the contraction is active again, like we connect to it and to the pain of it. And that's when this like sense of confusion or sense of anxiety and panic can come back up. Now, it can also feel, so this is a perceived threat. And then we can, obviously, there are so many examples I could give you. I'm just going to go with the one, otherwise we sit here until tomorrow morning. Another example is that when you're not just having a perceived threat, but when you're actually feeling unsafe. And that can be emotionally unsafe, physically unsafe, mentally unsafe, even spiritually unsafe. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. So you need to actually sit yourself down and write out what makes me feel safe. Because often we don't do that, so we cannot create a safe space for us. So what makes me feel safe is a clean house, knowing that, I'm safe there and it's peaceful. There is no fighting or anything like that. I don't need to hide myself or something. So for me, a safety is also open communication, no judgment, no, let's say, talking behind backs and stuff like that. I like it clear out in the open. Safety is also whole foods, sunlight, clean water, like really simple things, to be honest, that make me feel very nourished and safe in my body and in my surrounding. And then people that are honest, loving, kind, and just authentic. That are for me the staples. So you can go write down what makes you feel safe, because it's important to know. Because often we give ourselves to situations that are familiar, and we often confuse familiarity with safety, which is due to growing up in a certain way that you grew up, and maybe there are components in your journey of growing up that were great and positive and safe and all the things. And then maybe there were some components that didn't make you feel safe. And that can be, traumatic, but it can also be very small and just like you didn't feel heard and you had 5 siblings. So it's hard to make everybody maybe feel heard. It is not a judgment against your caretakers or parents. It is just you acknowledging your needs now as an adult, and even if they were not met as a child, that can be grieved, and that is completely okay to be grieved. And we don't need to judge the caretakers or the parents, But you as an adult have now the opportunity and the responsibility to own that need and meet that need and draw boundaries or communicate openly and gracefully to others what your need is, if it comes to it, that it needs to be communicated. And then with that, you create more safety and actually release levels of anxiety and panic and depression, because you give yourself what you actually need. Yeah. And so sometimes we put ourselves, based on our upbringing, into situations that feel familiar, because these are the same patterns from childhood, from adulthood, from earlier in life, that we've followed again and again and again. So we are maybe surrounding ourselves with people that are not necessarily healthy and safe for us to surround ourselves with, but they are familiar. And that's when your nervous system can actually signal you you're not safe, and you may not actually feel safe. It's not just perceived unsafety, it may actually be emotionally, mentally, or physically unsafe. Yeah, so that can be because people don't listen to you, or people dismiss you, or people are jealous and talk to you in a disrespectful way or treat you disrespectfully, and you are just tolerating this again and again and again because this is the way you grew up, and you have not really understood yet. And there's no judgment in that. I've went through this as well. I'm just sharing it with you because I find it so valuable to know that you get to make a different choice. Just because this is something that you've known and experienced doesn't mean you need to keep on tolerating it. Because when you bring awareness to the fact that this doesn't feel safe and this doesn't feel respectful and joyful and expansive for you, you can decide to, first of all, communicate openly what you need. And you can do it gracefully and kindly, but do it because you deserve it. And if those people are not, willing to meet your needs, then maybe, they are not your people. And I'm speaking obviously about authentic needs, like, hey, can we discuss things calmly without fighting or screaming or getting disrespectful? Excuse me, again, just one example of what I mean, but I obviously mean authentic needs and core needs, and not like needs like, oh, you need to massage my feet every night and you need to buy me all these things. You know what I mean? Like, I think you get the point. So this is when our nervous system can signal us you're on the wrong way, you're on the wrong path, or you're overworking yourself, or you're not taking care of yourself in some way. And that is when anxiety can come up to let us know, hey, look at me, look at this. You are not feeling safe in your body, in your environment. Even if you have neighbors that, like have a dog which barks all day and night, maybe that's like draining on your nervous system. Whatever it is, just get clear on, on communicating and building a relationship with your anxiety, because it's freaking powerful. It can also be that you get anxious when you are walking in a certain district or when you are visiting a certain friend. So that can mean that somehow this circumstance or place or person doesn't feel good to you, or just get a little bit curious about what it is and journal it out. So that's what I want to leave you with today. Just understanding, when are you in a perceived threat and when are you feeling actually unsafe. Especially, noticing when your anxiety comes up. And you can start a little anxiety journal and start writing down either after or noticing even while the anxiety is coming up and getting curious. And when we focus on noticing the anxiety, often this is when the anxiety resides, when we actually talk to it and say, interesting that you're coming up right now. Because this way you're also getting less identified with the anxiety. And usually when the anxiety comes up, we're all like, oh no, go away, like pressing it down or ignoring it and having another sip of wine or another bit of food or doing whatever in order to combat it. And I get you. I've done that too, but it doesn't really help because it's just a band-aid. And what we want is to feel free of the anxiety, right? So we need to get to know the anxiety. It's like when you say to a little child, I don't want to play with you now, shut up, just go away. It makes the child even more sad or even more like wanting to play and feeling misunderstood and alone. You have to see your inner parts a little bit like younger, more pure, childlike parts, and I'm referring to this in my videos all the time. This is about parts work, inner child, internal family systems. And this kind of work is super, super powerful. I use it in my process for my own growth. I use it with clients all the time. So it's really, really something that I can only recommend you to see your anxiety as a part of you that has a message for you. And sometimes the message will be, I feel unsafe, but actually you can then tell the anxiety, why? We're sitting in a cafe. It's okay. Right now you're not unsafe, although it feels like it. I promise you, I'll look out for you. When we're at home, we're gonna chat about, or we're gonna journal out, what is the underlying fear that is coming up right now? What is the past threat that we haven't processed yet that is coming up right now to signal you, here is something to look at for you, to release, to feel through, to liberate yourself from. And sometimes the anxiety comes up when we're actually feeling to some degree not well or unsafe in a situation. And then your job is to listen to the anxiety also and just be like, hey, what's going on? And then the anxiety may be like, I'm not feeling safe here. These are not my people. This is not a circumstance I like, or whatever. And I know it sounds a little bit abstract to build a relationship with your inner parts or with your, intuition or with your anxiety in this case, but try it out and don't give up after the first time. Try it out a few times and I assure you this is freaking powerful. So sit yourself down, journal out as if your anxiety was a person that you know. Journal out the characteristics. In what situations does it come up? What does it feel like? Can you name a emotion? And you can just Google wheel of emotions and it will give you a lot of emotions and you can just read through them to see, this is the emotion that I feel when the anxiety comes up. It takes a little bit of an investment, of an effort, but what is that little effort for feeling liberated and free of something that you feel not in control in? And by getting to know your anxiety, you're starting to ease it and to liberate it and to actually, release the problem at the root rather than trying to cover it up. I have so many clients who are like, I'm always running, so I feel less anxious. Yes, this is a nice coping mechanism, but I don't want you just to cope. I want you to be liberated. And I want you to realize that there is room for liberation. You are capable of achieving liberation from this. And your anxiety is also not an enemy. Your anxiety is a signal to understand within you what makes you feel afraid, or what are the underlying unprocessed moments in your life that scared you or that made you feel unsafe. Because this is what it's all about. This is what your anxiety is showing you. Are you overwhelmed? Are you overworked? Are you not feeling safe in a situation? And why do you need to overwork yourself all the time? What does it give you? What is the need behind it? Yeah, because there's always a need, and when the need is not met, we feel anxious, depressed, we feel less than, we feel like we want to shrink, or we need to be bigger than we are. And so we're always trying to make up for insecurities and fears within us. But when you meet them head on, and I know that may feel scary, but it's actually way less scary and way less effort to feel through your feelings and get to know the parts of yourself that are afraid or create a conflict within yourself. Then you are really creating safety within you. And that is the safety that is now becoming more and more and more important, because we are moving into a time where we can no longer hold on to perceived safety in the outside world through money, through anything that we can grab onto, through materialism, through titles, through other people. We're moving into a time where we need to be honest with ourselves and connect to our authenticity. And the earlier you allow yourself to do that, the more ahead of the curve you're going to be in the time where authenticity and open-heartedness will be so much more important than your title and what your bank account says. And this is, again, no judgment. We all want to have a full bank account. We all want to be successful and happy and beautiful and whatever it is. But don't make that your goal. Don't make that your number one goal. Move from the heart. And in order to move from the heart, we need to get in touch with our darkness. And the darkness is not so bad when you start looking into all those unknown pieces, because darkness is really just the unknown. And anxiety often feels like darkness, or feels like unpredictable and unsafe, but it's actually just unknown. So the more you allow yourself to be in the unknown, the more safety you actually create within yourself. Because staying in the familiar may be perceived safety, but it's not. It's not safe at all, because look what it gives you. Anxiety, depression, panic, all these kind of things, whatever other disease and insecurities, it is a perceived safety, but it's not safe at all. So create real safety within yourself, real confidence within yourself, real strength and devotion to your life, to a contribution in the world, to your people, to the planet, whatever it is. By going through the darkness, we need to go down deep into who we are in order to come out and shine. So this is the pathway. Sorry, I went a little bit deeper than I actually anticipated, but we go with what comes through me. So this is what wanted to be expressed today. So here we are. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to share your personal experience below, wherever you're at. If you need some advice, ask me. If you want to work with me in group work or one-on-one work, all the links are below. Don't be shy. We all need a little bit of help sometimes. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. And then I see you in another video. Thank you so much. So much for tuning in. I love you. And until next time.